Welcome to the Connors and Ferris High School Sports Show. I'm Jeff DiVeronica with my co-host Steve Bradley. Somewhere in our big screen of Victor Blue Devils girls basketball. And with us, we'll go through it. Coach Ashely Zahn in her first year as a head coach, formerly the JV coach at Victor. Also assistant coach and former head coach Blake Smith. Blake, could you wave for us? Ashley, can you wave for us? So we all know. You look so young, Coach Zahn. Maybe you could be one of the players, right?
Thank you.
Also joining us are two seniors, Maryn Savage and Emily Neenan, and Abbie Murphy are with us. So girls, can you all wave? Maryn, can you wave in a moving vehicle? We love it. And Emily, you are in a room, right? You're not in a car. Are you in a car, Emily? That's a very calm looking car. So it's been a long time since I've talked to your coach, Coach Zahn. And the last time we spoke, I'm pretty sure my hair didn't look gray and her hair wasn't blonde. Is the blonde a new look, Coach Zahn?
Since college. I've had it since college.
Well, welcome. I covered your coach when she was a star player at Canandaigua, became one of the top scorers in Section 5 history. I believe 4th on the list, 2,400, nice round number, 2,400 points. And she was terrific. So we're going to talk a little about that too. But Steve Bradley, it's a great program. Coach Smith is here too. I want to talk a little about his transition too. But as we record this, 2-4 on the season, coming off a couple wins, and about to go on the gauntlet here. Is it Schrader, Penfield, and is there a Mendon worked in there too? You're not playing Mendon too, are you?
No, we have Rush, Henrietta Friday, Schrader Monday, Penfield Friday.
Okay, so good group of games here. But Steve, tell us what this story is about. Really, this interview is about.
Well, Coach Zahn's father, Scott Zahn, was a longtime coach in Victor for 30 years, Hall of Famer, 3 sports, I believe, football, basketball, and was the third sport baseball?
Baseball, yep.
And Coach Zahn passed away in 2019, and and anybody that knows the history between Canandaigua, where Ashely went to school, and Victor knows it's one of the best rivalries in any sport in Section 5. And and after Ashley's dad passed away, she came over to Victor, and she's kind of, there's a bridge there now and she loves both communities. She's gone from being Canandaigua all the way to having respect and love for both teams. And we like those stories where people come together and do those things. And maybe I'll start with Maryn. Coach Zahn's first year, she comes in, she was JV for like 3 years. How great is it to have a coach that is such a good player and brings that instant credibility to the huddle and to your practices?
It's honestly amazing, and it definitely elevates our game. And we've all been coached by her before. And honestly, just being with her again for my senior year, I know for Emily as well, it's very full circle. And it's amazing to have her, and we love her very much.
Emily, what's she like as a coach? Can she actually still do some moves where she can show you what to do, or is she just doing a lot of pointing these days?
She's definitely doing both. Actually, we were getting ready for a few games. She put her shoes back on, and we were guarding her, and she still definitely got it. She's definitely got it. But she's also a great coach, and she's done an amazing job as we've kind of progressed through the season so far.
Abbie, what kind of message does this coach give to you as a former player and as a coach who's coming into a program? And she's been there for 3 years, but first year on varsity, kind of with her fresh start and your fresh start there.
She always just tells us to just do our best and work hard and kind of earn everything that we want. Like, nothing's going to be given to us, so we just have to try our best and just like put all of our effort into everything, because it's just not going to be handed to us. We have to work for it.
Now, Coach Smith, you knew both, Ashely obviously, and you knew her dad too. What kind of similarities do you see between their personalities, and do you see Scott in some of the things Ashely does every day?
Yeah, first and foremost, let's let the president here. These kids definitely don't want to run tomorrow in practice with all the kind things they're saying about their coach. But I echo all the statements that they're saying. The similarities between Ashely and Scott is just their true competitive nature. Both very competitive on and off the court. she wants to make her players the best they possibly can be prepared, but at the same time, she wants them just to be great. Scott, really, his legacy continues with that message that, he was a great person and he helped make great people and just wants to continue that. And you see that in his daughter, all three of them, Nikki, Leah, and Ashely. But I'm with Ashely every day, and Ashley's just a great person. So you continue to see that. But I would definitely say the big comparison is how competitive they are. And when Ashely does play in practice, she wants to be a la 2005 at Canandaigua on the court, going at the kids. So she does a great job, and their competitive spirit is great to see.
Sounds like you don't want to run in practice either tomorrow, Coach Smith.
I really don't do much running. Ice cream eating, I can do that.
Coach Zahn, I want to talk a little bit more about your dad and Bonaventure, where you played, and your journey to where you are now. Talk about what you do for a living and coaching at the school you wanted to really beat when you were in high school. But I want to ask you about this team too. You're a young team. I think only 3 seniors on the squad. Again, you've won 2 in a row after losing 4, I think, to start the season as we record this now. What do you like about what this group has shown you so far? And again, this season might end up with more losses than wins, and that's okay because it's more about the journey than just wins and losses. But what do you like about this group so far, from what you've seen after 6 games?
Yeah, I mean, one, they're just great kids. They're fun to be around, great to coach. And I think one of the hardest things is that you can't teach, or, you can't, I don't even know how to work hard and to hustle. And if you watch our games, even the ones that we had lost in the beginning of the season, everyone that had talked to me after they watched was like, holy crap, they do not stop. They do not stop. And I'm like, yeah. And you don't have to tell them. They just come in every day and work hard, and they listen, and they want to absorb things, and they want to be better. And, those that have been kind of following our journey, you can see from game 1 to just the past couple of games, just they've elevated, they've learned, they've gotten better. And I'm just excited because, like I said, they're great kids. They want to learn, they want to get better, and they love being there. And as a coach, it just makes my job easier.
Do we have any multi-sport athletes on the call? If you're a multi-sport athlete, raise your hand. And how many of you play lacrosse? Okay, I'll start with you, Abbie, because we all know about the success the Victor girls lacrosse team has had. Coach just mentioned that competitive nature. And how does that carry over to another sport where you had such great success in lacrosse last spring? When you play another sport, how does that, an athlete's an athlete and a competitor's a competitor, where does that come from for you?
I think a lot of us on the team have been teammates before, even if it's just on basketball or another team like lacrosse. So like we all are just very competitive with each other in general because we know how everybody plays, and it kind of makes it easier to like go at such a high pace in practice. And I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like I feel like we're all just so competitive because it's just like who we are. Like Coach Ashely said, like there's really nothing else.
Maryn, you're in a big school district with a lot of successful sports teams, and you played 2 sports, lacrosse and basketball, have some similarities. Did you always want to play multiple sports? Was there a thought where like I'm gonna have to focus in on one and give up the other if I'm gonna be really good at it and get some playing time? Take me through that. I mean, and do you think being a lacrosse player helps you in basketball and vice versa? And how so it helps you?
I think vice versa, it helps me in both ways. Basketball helps me stay in shape for lacrosse, but basketball also brings me a lot of joy. I have a lot of fun doing it, and I'm surrounded by girls that I really, really love being around. And Coach Ashely has personally motivated me to be the best I can be, either it's in basketball or off the court. And having her in the lacrosse program as well is something that we all cherish. And I think just having great coaches has made us such a motivational team and being such great competitors in our other sports as well, because a lot of us are multi-sport athletes.
Now, Emily, how important is it to you as a student athlete? women and female coaches are underrepresented in girls basketball. Now you have a coach that has been successful at the high school and college level teaching you, and you can see her as a professional and identify with her. How much of a role model does she seem to you, and how much have you enjoyed your time with her?
No, I really enjoyed my time with her. I got to be on her team when she first started out in JV, my freshman and sophomore year, and then this is obviously my senior year. So this is our third year together, and she really is a great role model, not just for me, but for our whole team, and just Victor and the Canandaigua communities together as like a whole. Yeah, you said like there's not as many women coaches out there, so it's great to have someone to look up to that was, like you said, very, very successful in basketball and in life. And she's just a great role model for us.
I remember actually doing a story for the Democratic Chronicle in the mid to late, it had to be late 90s, because Caitlin Howe was a former great player from Fairport who went to Duke. And she was coached by a woman, Karen Thal. And I remember doing a story back then about there weren't many female coaches. So, and Ashely, you've coached, you've played at the Division I level. I mean, I would tell you that I don't know if the numbers are that much better now than they were then. Probably a little bit, maybe slightly, but not a ton. Is there anything that can be done to maybe increase that here in Section 5?
That's a great question.
Maybe the Ashely Zahn coaching clinic for women.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I would love it. I think you do have to have like a true passion, because it's not like if you're coaching Division I or college, it's not a full-time job. So you're doing something else, but it's also a full-time job. So I think that for, people are like, oh, like I have this job, I have this going on. So it really truly starts as a passion. And I definitely got that from my dad. You have to be just all in and love what you're doing. And I do. And I've met some young girls that have just graduated through just playing, and it's good because they want to get into coaching. So I'm hoping that continues as girls get out of college. They continue to pursue and get involved, just helping teams, and then just building their way up through to hopefully getting varsity positions as well.
Well, let's take a quick break. Before we do that, we're going to say goodbye to our players, Maryn, Emily, and Abbie. Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it. And good luck to the rest of the year. I know the Schraders and the Penfields aren't going to go easy on you, but I've always said also that I think there's a lot to be learned from when you lose games and not just win. So good luck moving forward. We wish you the best of luck. And I know you are laying the foundation. We'll talk about this too, for some of the talented younger players on this team. So when they're winning, when they're going to win that brick in a few years, make sure you're back in the gym, because I'm sure they're going to celebrate with you. All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Yes,
You're welcome,
thank you
ladies.
so much.
We'll take a quick break, come back, talk more Victor basketball right here on the Connors and Ferris High School Sports Show.
Looking for a used truck? Can you find one out of 350? At BobJohnsonAutoGroup.com, you'll find one. Love SUVs? 800 are waiting for you to take one home at BobJohnsonAutoGroup.com. Add 350 pre-owned sedans, and you've got a total of 1,500 used vehicles only at BobJohnsonAutoGroup.com.
Bob Johnson's got your ride. Bob Johnson.
While we celebrate 140 years of serving our community, the kind of delicious joy that lasts a lifetime, we look forward to serving you for 140 more. With hardworking, wholehearted, passionate people who will help shape new memories for generations to come.
You don't choose to get hurt at work, but you can choose the workers' comp attorneys at Connors and Ferris to fight for your money and medical benefits you deserve.
With over 20 years of industry experience, we will give your case our undivided attention so that you and your family can focus on your recovery.
So call Connors and Ferris, the workers' comp attorneys dedicated to fighting for injured workers' rights.
Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys.
The best three things here at McQuaid are definitely the sports, the brotherhood, and the service to community. I think that's a really big, important thing that McQuaid stresses, which is part of creating a better and great man. You definitely feel a connection with your fellow students here. It's being all guy school, you're able to relate to each other on a personal level, and everyone's very welcoming here with open arms and willing to be your friend.
Hi, this is Jeff DiVeronica. I'd like to tell you about my friends from Doyle Security. We lost my father-in-law a few years ago, and that meant my mother-in-law was going to be alone in her house. One of my first calls was to Doyle. Doyle has an award-winning burglary detection system, and that gave her peace of mind again. It gave her comfort. These days, you can't put a price tag on that. Whether it's for your family or yourself, at any stage of your life, Doyle is there for you. For seniors, Doyle offers a personally enabled GPS emergency response system. They have a full array of smart systems, including fire and carbon monoxide detection, security cameras, and more for your home or business. More than 35,000 families and businesses rely on Doyle every day and every night. Family owned and operated for more than 100 years, you don't have that kind of staying power unless you're doing something right. To learn more, call 1-866-GO-DOYLE or visit godoyle.com.
Sweet baby, oh baby,
Local McDonald's operators care about our local schools, teams, and student athletes. That's why they support the return of high school athletics in the Rochester area and around the state. See you before or after the big game at McDonald's. Welcome back, Section 5. Game on!
Protecting your home's worth pays off when you trust the experienced team at American Custom. We've all seen our homes go up in value, making home improvements a wise choice. If you think your home is worth a lot now, just wait until our team is done with it. Call American today.
Welcome back to the Connors and Ferris High School Sports Show. My thanks again, too, for the Victor players for being on the first half of our show. I want to talk a little more in depth about with Coach Zahn and Coach Smith here about some of the history, recent history of the Victor girls basketball program and coaching in general with, I know a man who was very close to Coach Smith, Blake Smith, Mr. Scott Zahn, who passed away, and it's Ashley's dad, obviously. It was about 3 years ago now. And I guess, Blake, you coached the varsity for 10 years at Victor. And when you first met Coach Zahn, what was he like? What did you know like this guy was a teacher? He was like a pillar of the program, and he taught there, Canandaigua, Victor. Tell me about that.
So when I first met Scott, he's very professional, and he was in the elementary 4th grade role where parents want to request Coach Zahn or Scott, but you can't really request type of thing because you want your kid to just have a great educational experience, especially in those pivotal years in the education system. So I knew of the legend of Scott Zahn from a teacher standpoint. Then I'm a PE teacher, so I had his classes for phys ed, and they were very organized. And just through that small talk in the hallway, it turned into, hey, come to my classroom after school. We'll talk some basketball. I knew of Ashely. I knew of Leah. I knew of Nikki, just being around basketball and being a Section 5 basketball, alcoholic a little bit, boys, girls, it doesn't matter. I went to a high school, Bloomfield, where girls were very successful from the standpoint of basketball.
Yeah.
So lots, Phil White, Keith Shepard, lots of respect. So just got to, talk basketball, and our friendship just kept going from there to the point where the girls would tease Scott and say, oh, it's Blake calling. He's got to run away in the other room and answer. And Scott would be like, oh, the girls are busting my chops. So just got to be really good friends. And then when he retired from teaching, he still had a passion to keep coaching. And at the time I had a JV opening, and I said, why don't you come over, please, 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 and coach with me? And we coached together for about 5 years before we talked about, he suddenly passed away. And just moments that you can never get back, you just cherish, and you wish you could go back. But from there, I've developed a relationship further with the girls and Mary Jo, and it's just a great family. So I'm very thankful for having them in my life.
So,
Ashley, I'm sorry. Let me one quick follow up, because again, I'm looking at my gray hair on the screen here. I know how old I am now, but Ashely, am I remembering this wrong? Wasn't your dad on your Bob Guy's staff at Canandaigua when your teams were so good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Because I know I was reading up and I was like, he coached Victor. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought he was on the bench with Bob Guy, and covering
Yeah.
your team and Leah's team were really successful. So what was that like having your dad as a coach? Who had to probably sometimes temper what he said at times, because, or did he? Because he wasn't the head coach.
My dad was very calm. Like, he didn't have to say much. And when it came to us, he really didn't. I remember my first game as an 8th grader on varsity. And I remember he said to Coach Guy, you don't need to start her. Like, don't start her. And he was like, no, I want to. Like, I want her to start. She should. And he goes, don't feel like you need to start her. Like, you could start other people. Like, he was when it came to us, he was very, like, I wouldn't say hard on us, but like, he was hard on us in a good way. Like, he was always pushing us. But like I said, he was very calm. Like, he just taught the game. So even if I was his daughter, he was my coach in that moment. Which is very rare to find someone to really be able to flip that script and do it. But he honestly, and I'm not being biased, but he did it well.
And a good balance between Coach Guy, right, Steve? Coach Guy wasn't exactly soft-spoken.
No.
Well, maybe that's a good question for Coach Smith too. And a lot of the successful coaching staffs have good cop and bad cop, and somebody that is going to have to build the players up when the other one tells them the things that they don't want to hear. Blake, sometimes the best players aren't always the greatest coaches, because they have a hard time, getting the message to players, because it's not every player can do what they could do. What makes Ashely a good coach? As a former varsity coach and having worked with her the last few years.
I think you hear it from the 3 girls that you had on. We love playing for Coach Zahn. Coach Zahn has motivated me. Her relationship building, and we know that's a huge factor nowadays in coaching. Her relationship building sets her up for being a great coach. The kids trust her. They believe in her. Obviously, they know that she was a successful player. But with that being said, she is prepared, and keeps the kids prepared, whether she's scouting, implementing game strategy, or if they need her to show the skill, she'll show the skill. So I would just say it starts with her relationships with the kids, and then she's able to back it up with whatever they need. And she's just really great at listening to the kids too. So that good cop, bad cop, I think we both go back and forth. Some days she's the good cop, sometimes the bad cop. Some days she's the good bad cop, I'm the bad cop. Or good cop. So it goes back and forth. But yeah, I would just say first and foremost, her ability to build relationships with her players really sets a tone, and then from there, the trust just continues.
We talked in the first segment briefly about female coaches in today's world and how there aren't as many as males, obviously. And Coach Blake, I wanted to put your 2 cents in on that, and then I don't want to switch to Ashely because she referenced about not you can't be a coach full time in high school basketball, boys or girls. It's not going to pay the bills, and we'll find out what she does for a living. But Blake, what do you want to offer about that, about female coaches?
So I agree with you guys 100%, and I've been able to witness it, helping Ashely, and just see how she is a great role model, and being a former female athlete, now coach, that it is imperative that we figure this out. And I think one of the things is just we got to encourage more female coaches to take the lead like Ashely did. I mean, Ashely was a little bit, I don't want to say forced into it, but with the passing of her dad, she was ready to step into it. Whether she was or wasn't, she wanted to do it in honor of her dad. And then because of that, she's found a strong passion for it. And I think it holds a connection too with her dad, and keeping that connection alive and that legend alive. But from my standpoint, it's just we have to figure out, as a Section 5 group or coaches in general, how do we encourage all coaches to take the lead and at least take the jump, and I think that's the biggest thing Ashely would probably say, yeah, I wanted to step up and coach because of my dad, and now I'm finding a strong passion for it. So I think sometimes people, you always hear the negative. How can we put a more of a positive spin on coaching high school sports, and not always saying, well, the parents or playing time issues or things like that. Let's go beyond that. So I think that's something that I would offer to the coaching community.
Well, the reward of being a coach. Coach Zahn, you've been doing it for 4 years now. First year as a head coach in the varsity level, but JV too. Why have you developed this passion, do you think?
I mean, ever since I was a kid, and just when I saw Michael Jordan on the TV, and I'm sure so many people have said this, I was like, I want to be like him. And then just from my dad's passion, and it would be, my sisters would go to the mall with my mom. My mom would say, would you want to come? And I said, no, I'm going to stay home with dad. And he would wash the car and I'd shoot hoops, and then he'd finish and he'd come and shoot and just shoot and shoot and shoot. And it just became from then on, I loved it. Like, just a student of the game. It wasn't just about, the scoring and the success of a player, but it was like, how can I make people around me better? How can I make us successful and like just do my job versus like, oh, I've done this, this, and that. Like, if I put up, I'll never forget Webster Schrader, my senior year, I put up 44 points and we lost, and I was pissed. And they're like, that was an awesome game. And I was like, I didn't do my job. Doesn't matter. We didn't win. You just develop that. I just developed that through. I'm super competitive. I love basketball. I love breaking it down. I mean, I'll come home, I'll go to work, go to practice, and I'll come home and I'll stay up for another 3 hours and watch basketball, not because I feel like I have to, but just because I love doing it. So I don't know. It's just ingrained in me now.
Ashely, and Bob Chavez wrote a great story about this last month, but the Commodore Cup with Canandaigua and Victor raises money for the Farmington community, the food pantry, named after your dad. How much does that mean to you?
It's pretty cool. I mean, I say to people, like, how many people have a tournament named after them? Like, you got to be pretty special. And as soon as, he passed, I mean, that was kind of one of the things on the docket was like, let's make this about him because of how much he loved the communities. And I think, sometimes it's bittersweet because I'm talking about it like, oh, that's named after my dad. And like, geez, like, I can't believe he's not here. But just all these special things that are happening because of him, and seeing it 3 years later still too, it just holds such a special place in my heart because what he did was so impactful and it deserves to continue to be remembered. And that tournament especially is something like every year, like it's something now people are going to look forward to. Like, he will always carry on everything that he's done. So it means a lot to me and my family. And
the Scott Zahn Memorial Classic at Finger Lakes Community College. Props to Finger Lakes for being a part of it too. And to both administrations, Mr. Simmons and Mr. Weimer. And I think it actually may have started maybe even before Mr. Wickham was still the athletic director, I believe, maybe when this started. So, and we also obviously know the history of him, Ron Wickham with the athletic department there. I can tell you this, Steve, from covering a lot of those Canandaigua games when they won sectionals. I'm trying to think, boy, Ashely, did you make it? You made it to Troy, didn't you? Didn't you all make it to the Final Four? You did, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You could tell she was a competitor. You could tell she did not like losing. You could tell she was going to do whatever it took to win the game. 24 points per game as a senior, 4-time AGR pick. There was not a lot of those ever, really. Were there players you looked up to as a youngster, man or woman? Probably, I'm going to guess back then, maybe mostly male players. Did you ever watch with your dad on TV that you wanted to pattern your game after, Ashely? What was it like for you growing up as looking up at role models beyond just coaching and your parents, but players?
Obviously, I'm a Michael Jordan fanatic fan, love him. So just a lot of my work ethic came from just seeing all those things that he did. And then, my dad and I we just loved to go to games. So we would go to games, any game we could, but I did, you brought up Caitlin Howe, and I loved watching Caitlin Howe when I was younger. Just how smooth and effortless, and going back to, I wanted to make people better around me, because I knew that that was going to help us win as well. And Caitlin did that too. And that's kind of what I learned, and just seeing the trust players had in her. And they also knew, like, it's time to give Caitlin the ball, but we know, like, she's going to make sure things happen. Like, I loved watching her play. So she's definitely someone in Section 5 that I could give a shout out to, because she's a good role model.
And Steve, I'll tee you up on this. We used to have a chart on the wall printed out at the Democrat and Chronicle. Here were our Division I players, current Division I Section 5 alums who are playing at men's college Division I basketball and women's. And people, Caitlin probably doesn't get enough credit for this. I believe she was the trigger that started all these recruiters coming here. And there was a point where I believe we had about 12 to 14 current Division I players at one point from Section 5. The Marche Whites and Rochelle Cherries, Jackie Ward from Mendon. You go on down the list. Ashely Zahn. It was
Schoeneker.
Alyssa Benine,
Schoeneker,
Denise,
Yeah.
Denise Johnson.
Eva
Denise
from
Johnson.
Rush.
Tina Love. I mean, here we go.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
That was the golden era, and no disrespect to what today's era is, but the level of play was better then. So,
sound like you're at one of my practices, because I said, you guys don't even know. You don't even know what it was like back then, because it was a different level.
I mean, Irondequoit had a girl that went Soppy went D1. I think
Carrie Soppy.
Think about how many different schools we just named with D1 players. And I think that all started in the late 90s when Caitlin was bringing Gino Oriema here and Muffet McGraw. And it was a pretty cool time to be a player and a coach. And even Blake, you said, our girls, I mean, Phil White, Heather Shepard,
Jill
Hammond,
Erica Bellis. I mean, you covered those teams, Jeff. You know.
Yeah. Phil White standing on a tractor with a basketball in the air. I did a story on coaches who weren't teachers. He's a farmer. But you know what? I didn't mention this. I alluded to it. Ashely, what do you do for a living now? Because I think what you do is really cool too.
I'm a school counselor for a BOCES program. I have been, so I worked in a college, and then now I've done school counseling for the past couple of years. So I've enjoyed. I think that's also what kind of tied my passion into coaching as well.
And talk about mental health, right? And relationships. And Steve, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
So Jeff, I know we've probably gone longer than normal, but one more for Coach Smith. And Coach, you said this in the beginning, when you see Ashely coaching, you see the competitiveness that reminds her of her dad. Does she ever say anything, during a practice or during a game where it's just you're hearing the same thing Scott would have been saying at that play or that time? And what would the phrase be?
To Ashely's credit, I agree. She very competitive, but like her dad, she remains calm. I mean, you always think about she's young, right? We're all old on this. Ashely's young, and she, younger coaches usually really, really fiery, right? And she has that calm demeanor, but we still have a lot of calls. Press breakers, out of bounds plays, primary offense, secondary break stuff. That was what her dad and I called it. Her dad called it. Maybe some of the stuff even comes over from Canandaigua. Those book of secrets that were in Canandaigua, we don't really talk too much about. But, anyways, that stuff. When she's making a call or a game situation or a practice and drill, and she yells that out. Sometimes he gets chills. You're just like, oh man, I feel like Scott's here. And then, off the court, we talk on the phone probably too much, to be honest with you at times, but we're always just in constant communication. And that was something Scott and I always cherished, was just talking to him on the phone, because it was a good conversation. Not always about basketball, sometimes about life, but, I learned a lot in those situations. And now with Ashely, just kind of going through that, and there's a lot more than just being in the gym every day. There's so much of the bus times, this player needs this, or we got to get this settled. Grades are going to be due, stuff like that. So our off the court conversations on the phone too, I just get it. And then when we're obviously talking about film, she sounds just like her dad. Oh, we want to take this player away. We really want to make sure that we're prepared for this out of bounds play. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, we're going to try, but it might not go that way. But, it's just great.
And for the time reference, I don't think I mentioned this. You mentioned that she's the young one on the call here. So if you were the 2010 Canandaigua Messenger Player of the Year, you've got to be 30 or pushing 30 right now, actually.
I just turned 31, January 2nd.
31, okay. Well, and then from the Small World Department, folks, we found out during our commercial break that Ashely has stopped in at Burn Boot Camp, where my wife is a trainer, and she's yelled and trained many women and men at Burn Boot Camp, and Ashely's now among them. So, and there's been at least a half dozen of former Section 5 athletes that I've covered that will go in there and say, wait a minute, are you related to Jeff DiVeronica?
Yeah.
So all the way back to a player named Jenica Schmidt, who was on the 3-time state champion Aquinas soccer team. That's probably the oldest one I think she's coached. If Jenica sees it, I'm calling her old, she'll get mad. But anyway, we really appreciate y'all taking the time with us, your players and you two coaches, and sharing some memories about your dad, and then Blake, certainly one of your mentors, and Scott Zahn. He lives on in so many people, young players he coached, and certainly his daughters and his coaching family, which includes Blake. So, Steve, without any further ado, and before you start tearing up, I'm going to get out of this thing. Ashely, good catching up with you again. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
And her phone number is still the same from when she was a teenager. I still have it in my phone. I had to ask your athletic director. I goes, "Is this the same one?" He goes, "Yeah, that's her number still." And Blake, good seeing you again too. Give your family my best too.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your guys' time.
For Steve Bradley and our producer Joe Broad, I'm Jeff DiVeronica. Thanks for watching us right here once again on YouTube on the Connors and Ferris High School Sports Show.